I'm going to preface this by saying it is April. It is the month of April, okay? Hitting the panic switch in April, I think, is ridiculous. But I do think that one thing you can do in April is you can point out flaws of a baseball team. Because the reality is every single team has flaws, even the Dodgers who ended up winning the World Series. They have flaws. When I look at the Philadelphia Phillies, and as I'm recording this, they had just lost 11-4 to the San Francisco Giants. You've got Aaron Nola doing Aaron Nola things, getting shelled. Kind of proving my point of why I retired from Aaron Nola starts. But my big issue with the team isn't Aaron Nola. Because Aaron Nola is a part of the rotation. And the rotation of the Phillies is good. You've got Wheeler. You've got Christopher Sanchez. Luzardo looks incredible. Ranger Suarez is coming back. Like, your rotation's good. But all this week and this past week, a lot of the talk has been about Alec Bohm. And maybe that's because Alec Bohm has struggled since the get-go of this season. Like, right out the gate, he was struggling. Compounded with the fact that in the postseason, he struggled. So a lot of the talking points from Phillies fans is what is going on with Alec Bohm. I get that. I do. But my issue is not with Alec Bohm. No. My issue is with the outfield. Because right now the Philadelphia Phillies have one outfielder. One. It's Nick Castellanos. That is it. That's their only outfielder. Brandon Marsh is hitting I was about to say he's hitting a $198. He's hitting 98. Yeah. 98. Max Kepler went 2 for 4 on Tuesday to up his average to 245. That was kind of your big off-season free agent signing was Max Kepler. And this is now, I feel like, the second year in a row where the Phillies are going into what is the entire season with primarily one outfielder. Because you have those two, and then you've got Johan Rojas. And while I want to see more of Johan Rojas, and I've been a big Johan Rojas fan because I like his defense. I know it's not the greatest time to say it because last week he ended up costing them a game with an error. But I like his defense in center. I like his speed on the base pass, although I think he needs to go. But Brandon Marsh is horrible. And I've thought this for over a year now, that Brandon Marsh is what Brandon Marsh is at this point. Like, we know what he is. But it's kitschy. He's got a beard. Oh, my God. And Brandon Marsh reminds me of the line from Bull Durham where he says, if you win 20 games in the show and you have mold on your shower shoes, people will think you're colorful. I.e., if you're winning a baseball game and you're winning a lot of games and you're in first place and you're making the playoffs, people will think that Brandon Marsh is great because he's got a beard. But when you're not doing that, then it's like, beard's kind of stupid. I'm not saying that Brandon Marsh is struggling because of his beard. What I'm saying is Brandon Marsh has gotten a free pass because fans want Brandon Marsh to be good because look at him. He's kitschy. And Brandon Marsh has never been good. Ever. Every single team in baseball has a Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh would fit on perfectly with the Colorado Rockies. Like, he would be a great Sacramento A, or whatever they're calling themselves now. But on a contending baseball team, Brandon Marsh has no place. And you have to remember that when the Phillies traded Logan O'Hoppe for Brandon Marsh, he was a flamed-out former top prospect. He was a guy that had come up with the Angels, had struggled mightily, and really had lost his spot. And the Phillies traded Logan O'Hoppe for Brandon Marsh because they thought they could fix Brandon Marsh. He wasn't a proven commodity. It was, hey, Kevin Long, our hitting coach, thinks that he can fix this guy. And to his credit, when Brandon Marsh came over initially, he performed fairly decently. He was okay. And then the next season happened. And then the next, and it's like, he still can't hit lefties. They still won't even put him in against lefties. I don't like his defense in center. I like it in left, but I don't like it in center. So one of the big issues I have with the Phillies is they once again, second year in a row, where they're probably going to be looking for an outfielder at the deadline, but are they going to fully commit? Are they ready to actually punt on Brandon Marsh? And I don't think they are. And I think that's one of the biggest cruxes when it comes to a lot of front offices. It's not just baseball, it's all front offices. Where when they make a move for a guy, they're willing to give that guy long leeway because they, as the guy who made the move, whoever it may be, They want to be proven right. So they're willing to give him a pretty long leash. Whereas if they inherit a guy, well, I don't care if I get rid of him. And Dave Dombrowski made the move for Brandon Marsh. So he wants him to work out. Even though he still won't play him against lefties. Johan Rojas, it's like he's getting, what, a start every fourth day? Max Kepler, he can turn it around. No doubt he can turn it around. But the early returns haven't been good. And Nick Castellanos, for how good he's been, has been streaky in his career. Like in his Phillies career, it's like we all know that 1 month he'll be great, the next month he'll go cold. That's my problem. It is not Alec Bohm. It's not even Aaron Nola. Because I know what those two guys are at this point. You know, I tried to tell everybody 2 weeks ago, Aaron Nola is about to have a bad season. Historically speaking, when you look at his numbers, he's about to have a bad season. And so far, and I hope he turns it around. I hope I'm wrong. Hope I cold takes expose myself. But so far, he's been dreadful. He has been their worst pitcher. He's been worse than Taijuan Walker. You can't prove me otherwise. All the Kool-Aid drinkers about Aaron Nola, stop. And then Alec Bohm, I know what he is. Like, I know he's a good hitter. Now, unfortunately for Alec Bohm, ever since he's come up, he has dealt with criticism. Part of it is because of the fact that when you draft a guy third overall, you're expecting a superstar, and Alec Bohm just isn't that. Alec Bohm was a very good third baseman, but when you look at his career as a Philly, when he got called up, it was like constant criticism right at the gate. It started with the fact that he had no power. Then it went into he's a butcher at third base, and they're going to have to move him to first base. And then it went into, well, his RBIs, they're hollow, and, you know, he can't hit. And then it's the criticism, and he doesn't take criticism well. It's always something with Alec Bohm. Always. And there are just some athletes in the city of Philadelphia that they just never, like, for whatever reason, they never latch on. And I know that people will point to the I effing hate this place and how he was, you know, cheered the next game. But the reality is he gets a lot of criticism. A whole lot. And I'd argue he gets the most criticism out of everybody. We give Aaron Nola a pass, but Alec Bohm is like, we'll point to him. You know, kind of like a couple years ago when the Phillies lost to the Diamondbacks. What did people do? They pointed to the 9-hole hitter. Oh, yeah, Johan Rojas was the reason we lost. Like, stop. Come on. It's ridiculous. No, I'm not mad at Alec Bohm because Alec Bohm will get out of this. Alec Bohm is a good hitter. He'll prove to be a good hitter. He's in a rut right now. He'll be fine. But Brandon Marsh has never proven to be a good hitter. Ever. He's not good. He is a dime a dozen. You can find Brandon Marshes everywhere. But when you give up a guy like Logan O'Hoppe, that's the problem. Because they gave up Logan O'Hoppe because they had JT Realmuto locked up, and Logan O'Hoppe was on the way. Instead of going, oh, well, now maybe we can make a Logan O'Hoppe, JT Realmuto combo work, they didn't do that. Okay, fine. But they swung and they missed, and that's the issue. They swung, they missed, and they refused to admit it. And will it cost them? I have no idea. I think in Philadelphia we fail to recognize a lot of times that every team has holes. I mean, if you look at the lineup the Dodgers threw out on Tuesday night, their right fielder, their center fielder, their left fielder, it was like 240 and under. Kike Hernandez is hitting like $115. Max Muncy's hitting like $183. That's a team that won 100 games and everybody's just locking in as they're, okay, World Series champions 2025. They've got holes. So the Phillies having holes is no shocker. But the fact that they once again have one real outfielder, that's not good. So here's what I would actually like to see happen, and I don't think it will happen, but this is what I'd like to see. I would like to see Bryce Harper go back to the outfield every once in a while. They need to use his versatility as a benefit, and they don't do it. He can play right, and if he can play right, he can play left. So put him in a corner outfield spot, okay? Put whatever one you want. You want to move Castellanos to left and put Bryce Harper in right? You want to put Bryce Harper in left and keep Castellanos right? Fine, whatever. I don't care. Then the question is, well, who plays first base? JT Realmuto can play first base. He can play first base. He's done it before. He can do it again. It'll be better on his knees, and there you go. I don't ever want to see a situation where JT Realmuto's bat is not in the lineup, but he's going to need a break because he plays a very demanding position at catcher. So how do you do that? You put him at first base. You put him at DH. Like this team and Rob Thompson, and I think Rob Thompson's done a great job. Hard to complain about the success that he's had since taking over the team. But no manager's perfect, and he's not any different. And the fact that he has yet to use Bryce Harper's versatility as a plus for this team is a problem, in my opinion. Will it change? No, I don't think it'll change. I think for the majority of the season, you're going to see a platoon of Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas in center. If one of them goes down, maybe Justin Crawford comes up, but even if he does come up, how long will he play? Will he play every day? Will he play against lefties and righties? Like, we don't know. And then the Max Kepler thing. I think we are poised to see yet another deadline where Dave Dombrowski goes out and he gets an Austin Hayes type guy who is at one point an all-star, but he's not an all-star this year. And they kind of play him every once in a while, but not really. And then they go into the offseason, and it's the same thing. It should change. It's not going to. The Phillies have holes, no doubt. But is it time to panic? No, it's not time to panic. It's April. But this is a trend that is uncomfortable. Folks, for the first time since 2023, Andrew Painter finally threw a baseball for a Philadelphia Phillies minor league team. It happened tonight. I'm recording this on a Friday. He pitched for the Clearwater Threshers. They faced the Daytona Tortugas. A heated rivalry renewed. And Painter went 1 1/3 inning. He threw 37 pitches. I think 21 of them were for strikes. He had 3 strikeouts. He had 1 walk, and then after the walk, that's when they pulled him. He was supposed to pitch 35 pitches. So actually getting the 2 extra pitches, hey, that's a bonus thing. But I think if you are expecting Andrew Painter to contribute to a Phillies run this year, you're probably in for some disappointment. The way the Phillies have handled Andrew Painter is like you handle a Fabergé egg. And it is mind-blowing to me. Andrew Painter is the best pitching prospect the Phillies have had since Cole Hamels. And if you remember, Cole Hamels dropped in the draft because he had injury concerns. I think at the time he had a broken arm. So he dropped to, I want to say, 12th maybe? I probably should have researched this a little bit. It was like 12th or 15th around there. But he dropped to the teens because he had that injury concern, and then he got into camp, and it was like, wow, this guy should have been a top 10 pick. But he still had injury concerns. He had, when he was with Clearwater, he broke his hand punching a wall, or it was a bar fight or something like that. In 2005, he pitched 35 innings. 35. That is it. Now, if you remember, in 2006, he made his Major League debut. How many innings did he pitch that year? In total, he pitched 181 innings. Let that sink in. He went from 35 innings to 181. And boy, did it ruin Cole Hamels' career. Oh, wait, it didn't. So that's why I get so upset watching what the Philadelphia Phillies have done with Andrew Painter. Because when he had that elbow discomfort in spring training of 2023, and they, like most teams, go, okay, let's have you not throw a baseball for a while. Let's see if we can rehab this. And then it was like, okay, well, in 6 weeks, he'll try to throw off flat ground. He'll try to throw 20 pitches off flat ground. And then when he couldn't do that, it should have been like, okay, let's get the surgery done. But no. We're going to give it 6 more weeks. And then finally in July, late July, the Phillies and Painter, because this is also on him, they finally stopped delaying the inevitable. They finally stopped kicking the can down the road, and he finally got Tommy John surgery. Now, this isn't all on the Phillies, because obviously the player has something to say with this too. But I will blame Painter, the Phillies, and who's ever Painter's agent. I'm guessing it's one of the big ones, whether Boris, Casey Close, one of those guys, for not getting in this kid's ear and going, Andrew, you're about to miss 2 years of your career. And you know what happened? He missed 2 years. Yeah. And it's pissing me off. It's frustrating. Because if Andrew Painter simply had the surgery when the injury popped up the first time, or let's say he had the surgery after the first rehab stint of pitching off flat ground didn't go his way, he would have pitched last year. But no. We're going to push it till late July. And then even though Tommy John surgery is about a year, and he probably could have pitched in August, maybe September. Were the Phillies busy in October? I don't remember. No, seriously, I'd like to forget October last year. No, instead of doing that, they said, you know what? Let's really treat this with kid gloves. Let's shut him down for all of 2024 as well. But then they did the most confusing, mind-boggling thing, in my opinion. They allowed him to pitch in the Arizona Fall League. So he wasn't good to pitch in any meaningful game, right? Like in any meaningful game. And that was what? July, August, September, October. So 15 months after surgery. And then all of a sudden it was like, good to go. And then they continued to do really confusing head-scratching moves by not allowing him to pitch in spring training. So if you're keeping track here, they kicked the can down the road on the surgery so much, and he ends up missing 2 years. When he comes back, he probably could have pitched, but they no, we'll wait. We'll wait till the Arizona Fall League, where he threw all of 15 innings. I think it was 15 and 2/3. And he pitched well, by the way, at a 2.5 ERA. But they waited till the Arizona Fall League to, I guess, quote, get his feet wet. And that wraps up in, I think, November. So then December, January, February is when pitchers report. 3 months later, not allowed to do anything. Nope, not allowed to do anything. March, nope. This organization is going to treat this kid like the Washington Nationals treated Steven Strasburg, and I don't mean that in a good way. And if this kid turns out to be Steven Strasburg, like, oh, sign me up, right? But what I mean is, there was a podcast I saw recently, an interview with Jason Worth, where he went into then Nationals manager Davey Johnson's office and said, hey, you're going to have Strasburg on a pitch count all year long because, oh my God, injuries. We got to protect ourselves, injuries. And that's really dumb because we have aspirations of winning a World Series. So what's going to happen in October? Maybe he shouldn't pitch for the first 2 months so that he is healthy for October. And Davey Johnson basically told him, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. And then fast forward to September, and they shut him down in a pennant race. And Worth was like, this kid's healthy. Like, he's literally throwing bullpen sessions and long tossing in the outfield, yet we're not having our best pitcher pitch. This is dumb. I am not here to say that Andrew Painter will be even close to the Phillies' best pitcher because their pitching rotation is really, really good. Jesus Luzardo looks like a revelation. You've got Zach Wheeler, who is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. One of, if not the best pitchers in the National League. Ranger Suarez is coming back. I'm not a fan of Aaron Nola. I think everybody knows that, but some people are. Christopher Sanchez, this rotation is really good. Could it benefit from an Andrew Painter? My concern is they're going to slow play Andrew Painter this entire season. They're going to have him on pitch counts. It is going to be very, very similar to Joel Embiid and his rookie year when the medical department for the Sixers would have him on the most ass-backwards, minutes restriction of okay, he can only he can only play 12 minutes this particular quarter, but the next quarter he can only play 3, and then after that, we'll bump it up to 7, and it was like you were trying too hard with the science. You were trying so hard to make it a thing, and it really wasn't a thing. And meanwhile, the Sixers would be in games, and he'd be the best player, and they'd be like, no, big man, you got to sit because that maybe that extra 1 or 2 minutes, that might be the difference. And it was just dumb, and they treated Joel Embiid like a Fabergé egg after messing him up, by the way. Like, oh, yeah, you want to do a slam dunk with no shoes on, during warm-up? Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Oh, you're clearly hobbled and injured? Hey, get out there in a game against the Golden State Warriors. That's fine. It was so ridiculous how this organization's handled Joel Embiid, and I'm seeing similarities with Andrew Painter, where instead of just going, hey, the kid's healthy. Throw him out there, let him pitch, much like they did with Cole Hamels in 2006. No, we're going to have him on 35 pitches, and the next game it's going to be 50 pitches, and the next game it's going to be 60, and maybe he'll bump up to 70, but no. Even if he gets to let's say 95, there'll be the innings restriction. And if he reaches the innings, now we have to shut him. Enough of it. I have a dream of Andrew Painter being what David Price was for the Rays in 2008. That top prospect who is able to come out of the bullpen and give you, a high leverage inning because he's just got dominant stuff. The Phillies don't need Andrew Painter right this second in their rotation. Maybe if an injury pops up, God forbid, maybe they would, but I don't even think they call him up. And if they do, how many innings is he going to be allowed to pitch? 4? It was a nice sign to see him back. He pitched very well. His fastball hit 98. I much preferred watching him pitch than, Nola, who I am skipping tonight based on my retirement speech that I made. But I'm ready to be pissed off at this organization because I've already been pissed off about how they've handled this. And I feel like the absurdity is just going to continue into this season. Okay, one thing I always prided myself on when I was working in sports radio was being able to be the first one to admit, hey, I was wrong. No problem doing it. I was always annoyed at the hosts, and I think we all know who I'm talking about, who just refused to admit that they were wrong. It's fine. You're talking sports for a living. You're probably going to be wrong 50% of the time. Happens. So let's take a look at my prediction for UFC 314 when it comes to Paddy Pimblett and Michael Chandler.
Like, you want this dude to be the next Conor because obviously Conor is checked out and he's probably never going to fight again. You're not going to get that, though. I think there's levels to this game. I think that Paddy's going to find that out, and I think he's going to get absolutely destroyed. And
Oh, that guy was an idiot. One-way traffic, yeah, okay. Good job, casual. Yeah, hand up, I was so wrong on this one. I did not see that coming. Paddy Pimblett went in and took Michael Chandler to the woodshed. And I did the whole soapbox thing of, I don't want to see Michael Chandler with his contrived speech of, are you not entertained? And Conor McGregor call out and see you at the top. I didn't want to see it, and I didn't see it. And I bet Michael Chandler to win this fight. Now, granted, I only bet $18 because I don't have these casino money. But I was so happy to donate that $18. I felt like I paid the $18 to not get that speech. Now, I'm not the biggest Paddy Pimblett fan, but this dude's progression since he's coming to the UFC has been astounding, and now you can't ignore it. And I was ignoring it. Hand up, I was ignoring it big time. What Paddy Pimblett did at UFC 314 was proof positive of guys continuing to grow. And I think the biggest thing you look at is the Jared Gordon fight. Because a lot of people, and myself included, thought that Paddy Pimblett lost that fight. I am convinced Paddy Pimblett lost that fight. But I feel like that Jared Gordon fight was a wake-up call for Paddy Pimblett. A big wake-up call. Because up until that point, he had fought tomato cans. He had fought Luigi Vanderrama. He had fought, Jordan Levitt. A lot of these guys that had been, I don't want to say handpicked, because Jordan Levitt's a good grappler, but he wasn't at the level of Paddy Pimblett. And then he got Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, I think, won that fight. And then there was a wake-up call to Paddy Pimblett of oh, hey, maybe I shouldn't walk around at 200 pounds and spend the majority of my camp trying to get in shape. Maybe I should take this thing a little bit more seriously if I want to make a title run, and he has done that. And credit to Paddy Pimblett. Credit to Paddy Pimblett and then some. Because I was wrong, and I'm man enough to admit it. And I know that there'll probably be some people in the comment section that I will ignore because I try not to read comments. But I know there'll be some people in the comment section that will do a victory lap and be like, oh, well, yeah, okay, people are sleeping on Paddy. That's fine. Look, if you want to be a barstool bro and act like Paddy Pimblett was always this guy, I'm going to pat you on the head and tell you, great job. I don't think he was always this guy. I think in the past year, he's become this guy. I think Paddy Pimblett would have been murked by Ilia Topuria had they fought that fight when Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett got into it at, I think, the UFC Apex in the Performance Institute. Or it might have been the hotel. But when they got into it, I think Ilia Topuria would have absolutely murked Paddy Pimblett. And the UFC was very smart not to make that fight because it would have ruined a future cash cow, which Paddy Pimblett is. I don't think Paddy Pimblett would beat Ilia Topuria now, but it would be a lot closer than it was. And that's a credit to Paddy Pimblett. Huge credit. Now, where does Michael Chandler go from here? I have no idea, and I don't care. Michael Chandler's cornball, and the question then becomes, was Michael Chandler ever this good? Or was Michael Chandler just he beat Dan Hooker on a bad night, and then he's proceeded to get his ass whooped in just about every single fight? That's a possibility. Before, I went into it thinking, Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, not the best matchup for Conor McGregor. I kind of like Michael Chandler in that, mainly because Conor McGregor has taken so much time off. Now I'm Michael Chandler's probably washed. And I think Paddy Pimblett just put the dagger in any chance that Michael Chandler ever gets back. Ever gets to the top. See you at the top. Where's the top? I don't know who you're talking to because you're not there. And I'm certainly not at the top. I'm not there. So credit to Patty Pimblett, big time on that one. I don't know where exactly he goes from here. There's a lot of good fights. He called out Charles Oliveira. I like that fight a lot. I love the fact that he got into it with Colby Covington. Colby, you're a 170er. Like, what are you doing trying to like pick a fight with a 155er? You fight at 170, dude. Now I know that Colby, you need a win, but that's cheesy. And yeah, I mean, Patty basically told him as much. Like, dude, shut up. This is contrived. This act that you do. Other than that, Volk did Volk things. Not really about that. It's more about credit where credit is due. Patty Pimblett was on. I was not. I mean, my takes for the card weren't great. I had Volk right. I had Yair right. But I think that's it. I think those are the only two. So this fight coming up is really, really good this weekend. You've got Corey Sandhagen fighting. Love Corey Sandhagen. Like, that should be a fight on the next pay-per-view on 315. It's not. 315 is not a good card at all. That's a Buffalo Wild Wings card if there ever was one. But it was an eye-opening performance from Patty Pimblett. That's the point. I'm man enough to admit it. I think that a lot of times people will hide from when they get stuff wrong, and I understand it because I think in sports media, the reason why people just ignore when they get wrong is because even when they admit, hey, I made a mistake, I got this wrong, it's okay, you will still have people out there going like, like they're Nelson from The Simpsons. And Nick Wright's a good example of that. Like, Nick Wright from Fox Sports, say what you will about him, he will admit when he's wrong. He will own it. And yet you'll still have people pointing out, hey, what'd you think about Saquon signing with the Eagles? It's like, dude, he addressed that months ago. Like, he said he was wrong. And it gets annoying. And because it gets annoying, people go like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this. Like, even when I admit I'm wrong, I can't win. And I'm not asking to quote-unquote win, but I just think it's important to be accountable. And when I say really, really dumb stuff, like, oh, yeah, it'll be one-way trap for Michael Chandler, I think it's important to get on here and say, oh, yeah, no, I didn't really know what I was talking about that night. Other than that, I got nothing UFC-wise. Now, speaking of things I was dead wrong about, let's look at the Sixers, right? Because I put out a tweet, and I want to say November, that said the Sixers would be a top 4 seed in the East. Book it. Glad you didn't book it. Because they weren't a top 4 seed in the East. They were one of the worst teams in all of the NBA. They, in a lot of ways, did what they were supposed to do when it became very obvious to many, except me, that this team was not going to succeed this season. And they finished with one of the worst 6 records in all of basketball. And if you're not aware, the Sixers' first-round pick is top 6 protected. This does not guarantee that they get their draft pick. The ping pong balls still have to go their way. If for whatever reason the ping pong balls fall out, then they're screwed. But it puts them in a good position, at least, to keep their pick and possibly get an impact player. You add that impact player to hopefully a healthy Joel Embiid, a healthier Paul George, a still, I think, ascending Tyrese Maxey, and a Jared McCain, who looked like a revelation when he actually played until he had the injury. But here's actually what I want to talk about, is Keith Pompey from the Inquirer, who does a tremendous job. You can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. He put out a poll that said, stay or go, do you want Joel Embiid to stay? He said nearly half of the voters said they want him gone. And I'm not trying to do a victory lap with this, but when I was on the air at 97.5, I was, I think the quote was taken out of context, but I got ripped for it. And this was not this past, it was the beginning of the 2023-24 season. And I said, if you think the window is closed, that's the big thing. If you think the window is closed, then you need to trade Joel Embiid. This was him coming off of his MVP season. I said, look, like, he is a unicorn. He is extremely talented. But if you think the window is closed, then what are we doing? Because at that point, you're being a selfish fan. And you're keeping a guy that has tremendous value because he's the reigning MVP. You're keeping him just because you want to be able to watch something, which in a way is understandable. Like, you're a fan. Why would you want to watch a bad product? Joel Embiid makes the Sixers much better. We all know this. But if you think that the window is closed and they are not going to win with Joel Embiid, then you need to move on from him. The comments to that tweet, I mean, I just got it torched. Because a lot of Sixers fans looked at it as me saying, you need to trade Joel Embiid. And I wasn't saying that. I was just simply saying, hey, like if you think the window's closed, then what's the point of keeping him? Trade him because his value is probably never going to be bigger than right now. And then fast forward a year and a half later, and people are done. There's a lot of people that are like, I'm done with this dude. And I'm a little amazed. Because the fact is, this past season hindered on Joel Embiid. This past season's success hindered on Joel Embiid. This team was never going to win without Joel Embiid. This team will never win without Joel Embiid. I think we're all on the same page with that one, right? Like, if they have Paul George and they have Tyrese Maxey and they have Jared McCain, they're still not winning without Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is a 7'2" Cameroonian unicorn. He is one of, if not the best players in basketball when he plays. You can point at Jokic all you want, but when you look at the offense and the defense, which is big, Joel Embiid, I think, is better. Am I biased? Maybe. Who cares? It's my channel. So when Joel Embiid was clearly not healthy, that should have been a tip-off, at least to me. You know, the idiot here who said they'd be top 4, book it. That should have been an indication that this season was going to go down the toilet. And it did. And the fact is, Joel Embiid was dropping 50 points on one knee and a pinch of palsy against the Knicks. And he went right from that, when he should have gotten his knee right, he should have had surgery. He went right from that into the Olympic training camp. He never should have played in the Olympics. And if you watched him in the Olympics, he didn't look right. Like, he was getting ripped apart by NBA fans for whatever reason, because I guess they just don't like Joel Embiid. It's very puzzling to me. Like, are you not a citizen of the United States? Like, do you not want the United States to win gold medal, but you're ripping Joel Embiid? He was getting torched by a lot of fans because he just didn't look right. And if you're a Sixers fan and you're watching, you're like, that's not the same guy. And it was because he was injured. He clearly wasn't healthy. So he wins the gold medal, kind of gets carried to it, and then he had, 2 or 3 months before training camp? This dude never got right. He never got right from the meniscus tear that he had last season in February. He just went right from basketball to basketball to basketball. He should have dealt with it, but he didn't. And nobody got in his ear. Nobody got in his ear and said, hey, Joel, I know you want a gold medal, but I think an NBA title's better. And I understand it's a hard conversation to have with a guy, especially when he wants this for his legacy, for his son, really, to see this. His son was, who was born here, to see his father hoist that gold medal. I understand that. I get that it's a really, really tough sell. And I wonder if anyone actually tried. I wonder if anyone got in his ear and was like, Joel Embiid, dude, really shouldn't be playing. But that cooked him. And when you look at this Sixers season, while you had hope that this new big three of Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George would thrive, they didn't. They struggled big time. It wasn't just Joel Embiid. It was Paul George as well. He was horrible. This is the worst year of his career. Now, defending him a little bit, it's really hard to get going when you're not only on a new team, you're getting acclimated to a new city, you're injured as well, and your running mate, i.e. Joel Embiid, is rarely healthy. And even when he is playing, he's not the same. Tough to get going, in fairness to Paul George. I don't know if Joel Embiid was 100% healthy, if Paul George ends up thriving in this, I have no idea. I think Nick Nurse, though, is a really, really good offensive coach. And what I saw was a bad offensive team. So I would like to think that if everybody's healthy, you have a much, much, much better product. And you don't have guys having the worst year of their career. But I think it's important, too, to look at, give me one NBA team where you take off the best player on that team and they're still contending for a championship. You're not going to be able to. You take off Jason Tatum for the Boston Celtics, and yeah, they have a deep team, but they're not winning an NBA championship. If you look at the Lakers with LeBron, they're not winning an NBA championship without LeBron. Steph and Golden State, they're not winning without Steph. Ja and Memphis, the list goes on. You can't name me, Giannis and Milwaukee, a team that will lose their best player, top 5 player in the league when he's healthy, and I think he's the best player in the league when he's healthy. You lose that guy, and you're still contending. And basketball is probably the one sport where that really happens, where you lose your best player, and your season is cooked. I think hockey, you can pretty much survive as long as it's not a goalie, albeit, Edmonton might struggle without McDavid, but they still have Draisaitl. Football, obviously, we've seen, in this own city, right? Nick Foles ends up winning a Super Bowl. Basketball is that one sport. And I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to give up the dream that Joel Embiid can bring this city a championship. And maybe I'm very foolish when I say that, and maybe I'll be on here in a year calling myself an idiot, but he's just so damn talented. He just simply can't stay healthy. Shams Charania put out a tweet that said Joel Embiid is expected to go through arthroscopic knee surgery. He's expected to make a full recovery. Now, he's had the surgery since that tweet went out, but I quote tweeted it and said, the fact that you put is expected to make a full recovery, that's the least likely outcome. And every Sixers fan will tell you that. Because it feels like this team is cursed. Even when they get a really good player in Paul George, it's like, oh, yeah, the worst year of his career. Al Horford, right? Like, they sign Al Horford, has the worst year of his career. It seems like anybody they put with this guy, he just, other than Tyrese Maxey, and James Harden was good too, but it's I don't know. So I was really surprised that Keith Pompey's poll that at this point fans are turning on him, and I do wonder what's the reaction going to be next season. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he plays. But I wonder how much Sixers apathy has just set in with this team. I'm a Sixers season ticket holder. I'm personally giving it one more year. But I'm interested for you guys out there. Like, are you guys just done? Are you checked out? Because right now, if you're looking to trade Joel Embiid, I don't think you're getting a lot for him.